Hello and welcome. For this video, we are going to look at structured query language SQL and working in the MySQL database management system. We are going to look at the three major components or concepts or here environments that allow us to be able to work with MySQL. So in MySQL, especially if you're working with MySQL versions, you are allowed to be able to run or execute your queries using three various components or aspects of it or environments. You have the shell, you have the command line client, and then you have the workbench. All of these allow you to be able to run your queries. If we take the command line client and the shell, these ones provide us a non-graphical user interface to be able to type or write or execute our commands, and then we'll find or see the result, which is the result set showing for us to be able to analyze. If we want to be able to perform easier and then also manipulate our environment much more ease with some clicking and then also executing of certain commands, then we can work with the workbench, the MySQL workbench 6. And in this environment, as earlier on mentioned, you can run your queries, you can perform all other execution of your SQL statements. However, in the shell, we are allowed to operate in two modes. The very first one is by default JS, which is the JavaScript as seen there, and then the other is working in SQL. So depending on which of the languages that is the active language for the particular session that you are working in, you will see it indicated on the side of the MySQL server as indicated in the prompt. So if we want to change it, then the command that we have to issue is \SQL. This will indicate that we are switching the mode to be able to write or execute SQL based statements against the MySQL server or the server instance that is currently running. We have been also shown the indication that we must end all our statements with a semicolon. Further, if we want to be able to work in this environment, we have to ensure that at the end of the day, we are able to use these commands targeted at a particular instance or targeted at a particular server of our interest or of our choice. So we indicate by switching to the particular instance that we want by writing or typing \connect, then space root, the @ symbol, localhost, colon, then the port number. So here it means we are connecting to a particular server instance which is referred to as localhost. If we have a particular name for that MySQL server, we can indicate it there together with also maybe an indication of an IP or something. Then we also have before it the particular username for which or the user account that you want to use. If we have several users that have been set up or accounts that have been set up, we can also specify it there. Then indicating which port we want to tunnel our various commands through to the localhost or the MySQL server that we are working with. If your port that you configured was not 3306, then you may change it to 3307, and that will indicate what you have there. And this is the protocol that we are using, or the port number. It is not the X protocol that we have there. So please take note. Depending on the one that you install it, you configured it with, that's the one that you refer to there. And with this, we have the indication of the session being routed to this particular server instance. We also have to provide our password that we use to configure the server. So you indicate your password. If your password is correct, it will go ahead and ask if you want to save it. Since you are aware of your password, there's no need to necessarily save it because you can type anytime. So I type no, N for that matter, and here it moves straight into my session, fully in that session. So notice that it is telling me I'm working with the MySQL environment. The server instance here is localhost. The port that I'm using there and secure socket layer also as well initiated with the SQL commands as expected. So this is how to be able to start then running your commands. So we are going to put in some basic commands. So if I want to know all the databases that are available in here, I'll type show databases and end with a semicolon. Kindly note that SQL is not case sensitive. We use a sentence case for it. So here are the list of databases that I have in there from this information schema, the MySQL performance schema, and then 6. All of these are having data regarding the MySQL environment together with the databases that you are going to create. Databases showing here. You have to switch from the particular database of my choice. So I can decide to now go and say use. This time around I'll use one of the databases there, retail DB in here. I can then go to show tables as I edit this product with the category and supplier. So if I want to see what the tables consist of, what their attributes are, I can go to use the description and mention the particular table that I'm interested in. So I'll ask you to describe the product table. So disk will do that for me. Now if a table has some data, for instance, if I want to see what data that exists in, say, category or product, I can go ahead and write the statement select star from category, generate for me all given results or records that exist in here. So cat ID is specified to be of type char, 5 characters. It means that at all times the cat ID must have 5 characters consisting of or making up the category ID or cat ID. That's what we call a fixed character set. That's what char has to offer. In the case of category disk, which is category description, varchar simply means that you have a lot of characters, but you may have it varying in terms of the kind of values that may be captured under that particular field or attribute. So we have varchar 50, which means it can contain anything from nothing to 50. That is if it is supposed to be null. If not, then it must contain from 1 to 50, since it says null is no. So let me set data according to this format or structure or the schema that has been seen here, described above. So according to the schema, all cat IDs must be 5, making up a combination of whichever that I want, and the category should be 1 to 50 in terms of description. So insert into, I provide my database table name, category, and then I indicate values. I open bracket, and I also put the data that I want according to the way that they were created. In this approach, that is how you must do it, based on the default arrangement. The very first is the cat ID, and since this is char making up different types of values, letters and numbers, I must put it in a single quote. If it were only numbers, I can decide not to put it in the single quote. So here I'm going to create a category called books, Therefore I type BKS say 01, and I end it with a single quote. Follow immediately with a comma for every one of the list of values to be entered, you follow with a comma. The last value will not have a comma. The last value will not have a comma. I add a single quote since category is also of varchar. So char, varchar, date, and other data types except number-based data types like int, double, and the like. We do not need to put them in the single quotes. So I said the category will be books. I close it. Since there are only two fields here, or two attributes, I end it in this way. I should not bring a comma here. That would be an error. I end it with a semicolon, and this will be executed. Here it tells me query OK, one row affected. Increase from 4 to 5, with the indication of books also appearing nicely there. If I want to add another, I can go ahead and do so. So let us say that we want to change it and then make one to be fruits. I can edit this. And automatically it will also include anything that you insert will automatically be saved. Basis. So let's see a simple query. Select star, that's all attributes, all fields, from category again. And then for the comparison or conditional statements, we use the keyword where. And then I call upon a particular field that I want to compare against. Assuming I want to fetch for anything that has a certain ID, then I'll call upon the attribute ID cat underscore ID, because that is how it has been named. If I name it cat ID alone without the underscore, it will lead to an error. I use the operator equal to, the relational or comparison operator equal to, and then I bring my quotes. Let's assume I want to find out if anything such as GRN01 exists in the database. I end it with a semicolon always, and then I execute. If it does exist, this is what will be returned for me. One row of data, it will be returned. If it does not exist, let me change it to 3, GRN03, by simply moving through and editing. When I execute, I'll be told an empty set. It means that no data of that was found. So assuming I want to delete any data from it, then I go ahead to write a delete statement. So delete from, and then I specify what I want to delete and where I want to delete it from. So delete from category, since we are using category as an example. Delete from category, and then we also use our comparison operator where need be anything that will meet the condition or the criteria. This time around, I want to delete the data that I entered from fruits. So where, assuming it's cat ID that I want to use, I can do that, or I can choose to use the category description. So where category desk is equal to fruits. Doesn't have to be the same case match. It only looks at what is close to it, and so far as it exists, then it will execute. So here we are told that query OK means that the query was correct, no errors. One row affected, and that is it.